I'm sorry I tried to fire you.
You were trying to fire me?
I'm sorry.
I'll show you sorry.
We have an affinity for art that's able to imitate life, even in the case of reminding your friend you're not the one. There's just something humanizing to seeing your favorite fantastical characters doing mundane life things like struggle to pay a bill, going on a date, or dealing with psycho roommates. Is what helps connect us to those characters, cause we like to see examples of ourselves reflected back at us in stories. Disney gave us many shorts where Mickey and the gang deal with simple domestic problems like getting ready for work, or going out with friends, or conducting a windy orchestra, or even Looney Tunes with their shorts following a similar nature, though with more Martians and guns. The Flintstones where they portray regular home life but with a twist of dino enslavement.
Boy, if you don't...
The shorts for Disney and Looney Tunes were fun, but they couldn't get into the deeper narratives for these icons with being so short. After a while, just seeing Goofy fly through a wall stops having the same feel. In comes modern adaptations like the Disney Afternoon that give you a better look into who these characters are, from your Goof Troop to your House of Mouse, even your Looney Tunes Show. I wanted to take a trip down memory lane and look over these shows. I want to get down to why and how these legacy characters being domesticated connects with us. It's not just because I'm 30 and feeling wrongfully nostalgic. This is whatever YouTube title you see at the time of release, aka the art of domestication in animation. We'll start with Disney since they weren't shy from domesticating their characters. Hell, some of their shorts revolve around Mickey and them dealing with small things and blowing them out of proportions anyway. We shan't forget Mickey pulling the blick out on Donald. Again, friends need to know you're not the one. But the crews for these old shorts didn't really take the domestication too far, time being the biggest factor. They couldn't get too deep into the more subtle parts of domestication. So with the rise of the Disney Afternoon, crews were given all the time they were needed to properly domesticate an icon. In comes Goof Troop. It starts off with Goofy moving into domestication. We knew him as this over-the-top, for a lack of a better term, goofy guy. He would get hurt doing mundane things anyway, somehow getting an explosion in on the chaos even if there wasn't anything explosive around. Goofy was always portrayed as having a simple home life and just dealing with relatable but exaggerated situations. So a show with a longer runtime than less than 7-minute shorts is a perfect outlet to explore the full possibilities, even getting a movie out of it, but we'll get to that later. Also, we got an out-of-date rap song out of this.
Cool mistake isn't always it. Sometimes you gotta go just a little bit. So don't you even hesitate.
The 90s were a silly time and that's why we loved it. Goofy's given a son named Max who added a layer of maturity to Goofy that you wouldn't expect. We see Goofy having to handle being a father, a single one at that. Of course, he's a bumbling father stereotype by default, but come on, Goofy gotta go. That excludes being a dad though. He fit the role of dad pretty well since generally Goofy is a nice guy, except when he's behind the wheel. Goofy trying to be more of a dad is something that can relate to many people because a lot of people grew up either with someone like Goofy or maybe they wanted their dads to be a bit more like Goofy. Just someone who was a bit more soft-spoken, more understanding, but from time to time understood how to be a father still. What we should talk about is the Pete family. Pete fits in perfectly within the suburban life with the fact that he was already a villain to begin with, so they just made him a jerk neighbor that doesn't get along with Goofy too well. He gets his own son PJ that he pushes around as well as a hyperactive daughter named Pistol. The fact that Disney even let that one off is so funny. And then there's many people's awakenings when they were younger. Peg Pete. She keeps Pete in check with her drill sergeant voice whenever she gets irked. Can't fake it, felt like the animators had a little too much fun animating her sometimes.
I'd buy Pistol that doll factory she's always wanted, a video arcade for PJ, and for Pete, a boat. A really big boat.
You know, just because you don't draw the line doesn't mean it's not a pair of breasts.
The Titanic.
Thank you.
I will say Goof Troop ends up on the lower end of domestication. The biggest reason for that, it's a little boring.
Why you boring me? I'm right.
Not to knock it too much, not to say it's not entertaining. They still have that slapstick humor you would associate with Goofy, but sadly it doesn't really have much else to it. A lot of the time the lessons feel a little small or aren't really built upon too much. There's no real arcs. Things just kind of stop after the episode's over with and we move on to the next one. While the characters are fun, you don't get a lot of heartfelt moments in this show, sadly. Even Goofy and Max don't have a lot of strong bonding moments.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
It's not until a Goofy movie where that comes into play. This is where domestication comes into play for Goofy. This movie showed off how you can bring an icon down to earth. Goofy as a single dad has to come to grips with the fact that his son Max is growing up. That Max is an individual person and he can't just be by his side all the time. Of course he pulls a Goofy move and makes Max go on a surprise vacation against his will. There's tension here since Goofy conflicts with Max just wanting to stay home and hang with his crush Roxanne. You see the strain this conflict can bring to their bond. Max being so different from Goofy makes us recognize the tension easily, especially since Max came up with a lie to get them to the Powerline concert. Goofy has legit worries for his son failing in life, exacerbated by Max's Wallace Shawn principle who puts fear in Goofy's head. It plays into parents' fear of their children becoming failures or criminals. Many parents probably sympathize with Goofy in a different way than when they were kids. There was levels to the shit that we watched, all without having to overstate the point. There's iconic moments from this movie like Max and Goofy trapped in the car. They allow such a silly icon of theirs to have a genuine moment with his son. It's far from what you would expect from this absolute goober of a guy, but that's how this movie connected to so many people. There's something so real about seeing two cartoon childhood icons sitting in a hot tub speaking on their philosophies of fatherhood. This exchange has all the means to be the dumbest moment, considering it's with Goofy and Peg Leg Pete of all people, but it's played so straight that you have no choice but to be engaged by it. And it's not a bad conversation for them to have. Goofy and Pete have such differing ideas of raising their kids. Pete obviously feels more harshly about fatherhood since he has one more kid than Goofy, who's certainly a handful. Her name is Pistol, for goodness sake. And Goofy believes his son is trustworthy since he's been having fun the whole time on the trip, but at the detriment of not realizing he is being tricked. You can see why he's willing to defend Max though. It's a battle of the philosophies of love and respect.
You know, maybe Max isn't all the things that you think a son should be, but he loves me.
Hey, my son respects me.
Yeah.
Some deep shit for a movie with a mind getting crushed. This put both these characters in a new light for people. You've seen them as silly dads, but not as fathers. It shows that you can have nuance with an old character people thought couldn't be taken seriously. This moment, as well as Goofy's reaction to Max hiding the truth, showed that even this dog could be human. There's a video on Toonrific to Reach channel where him, me, and Awkwardly Animated go into greater detail about the Goofy movies and their impact on others. We even go over how this movie connects to black culture. It's not hard to connect the dots to how black folk could see themselves in Goofy and his struggles. There's even Chalixion's video that talks about how this movie might be black history, so you should even check that out. Max wanting to stand out rather than wanting to fit in is something we as people will always connect with. It's why the Powerline concert is legendary. You can't say it's not based on a Michael Jackson concert. The movie connection with black folk also stems from them being black alumni working on this film. The main point being is that this Goofy movie understood the assignment. Even Extremely Goofy movie gave a glimpse of Goofy going through a midlife crisis. He has to see his own son off to college and get laid off from his job, hitting on that major relatability that definitely many are feeling, especially that laid off part. Especially right now. Goofy wanting to do better for himself by going back to school is something many could relate to. Many people lose their jobs and don't have an education in other fields to get back on their feet, so sometimes they do go to a community college at least or something. So you can see how Goofy wants to get a better education, as well as get close to Max again since he was all alone in his house. Speaking of which, the scene with Goofy in his house alone tells you so much without overstating anything. It invokes the familiar feeling many parents have when their kids leave to start their independence. Goofy having such complex emotions about his child leaving the nest were something we as kids watching didn't understand, but our parents got the message clearly. It's that domesticated lifestyle that many lived, or at the least aspired to live to, where you were able to grow a family and actually see them out the door when they finally were ready. Now the main plot with Goofy going back loses a lot of relatability with shit like getting caught up with frat loyalty and the X Games, but this still is a great movie that gets across so much about Goofy that we really didn't have before. But for many of us hitting our 30s, or those that hit their 30s when Goof Troop and the movies came out, you connect with Goofy on a more personal level. To see him go from bumbling goofball to bumbling dad hints at a sense that you're maturing just fine.
Hey, little girl, I wanna dance with you.
House of Mouse understood the domestication greatly with how it handled the legendary Disney characters. House of Mouse was this episodic series where Mickey and the gang run a Showtime theater that puts on the old Mickey Mouse Works cartoons for the 2D Disney characters to sit and watch.
Look out, you got a piece!
Yes, it was definitely a vehicle just for the crew to make puns at the expense of Disney.
Donald, you've got to get on stage. The crowd's turning ugly.
That's a huge bitch!
But you gotta appreciate the commitment to the bit. The Mouseworks shorts showcase Mickey and the gang in goofy domestic situations all the time, in a just more modern, updated sense, but on a smaller scale. It put them in simple situations of running a business, forcing them to break down who their characters are at their core. Many people saw Mickey as this clean-cut, nice, goofy goody with no edge to him, but if you watch some of those old cartoons hold a blackface, you'll find he can be an asshole. Hell, Minnie's first appearance had this man about to catch a hands-off-me case.
Oh no. God damn him!
But I digress. This series showed a more down-to-earth side of him. He could get frustrated, he could get sad, he could be mischievous, he could drink from his bottle.
Oh, I can't take the pressure.
Mickey, relax. Have a drink of water.
Side tangent, I always like when cartoons have animal characters act like animals, just kind of a nice little fun, adorable thing. Anyway, he had a personality that many forgot about. Enter House of Mouse and you see a bit of that old side of him. He's a flawed character since he has to deal with problems anyone running a business would. You can see his frustrations with others, you can see the mistakes he makes as a boss, you can see him struggling to want to pay a bill, you can see him roast the shit out of a nigga.
Finally, I'll get a chance to show your audience some real comedy.
Oh, I didn't know they made a film of your last date.
This show's domestication of Mickey and his friends gave a better understanding of who Mickey Mouse and the gang are. I won't get too lost into the details for this series, but there are some episodes that capture that domestication perfectly. The first episode actually sets the stage really well. You get Mickey and the gang opening the show, you see all the Disney characters sitting around having a good time, you feel excitement at seeing your favorite characters all come together. Most of the episodes ran standard where there being some problem that could get the place shut down, especially with Pete being the owner and an overall jerk. It added stress to the characters since they needed to make the show go on, otherwise face joblessness. Hey, even grounded shows can have stakes. There were even episodes that gave you unique pairings like Daisy and Mickey.
But as long as we're together, it doesn't matter whether we ever end up down on our luck. 'Cause we're friends, me the mouse,
And I am a duck.
I forgot how charming of a song this was, but something else that happens in the episode is that due to Daisy hurting herself on purpose, Mickey has to perform the song with Minnie instead. They make a point that it's Minnie's first time ever performing, and it shows.
Forever we're together, we're stuck. Even though I'm a mouse.
And I am a duck. I'm a duck. Mickey,
No, just go to the bridge.
It plays into that domestication by showing how your favorite characters are infallible, adding to that relatability factor. In the episode Max's Embarrassing Date, all us Goofy movie fans get a follow-up to Max and Roxanne's relationship. So many fans that wanted to see this relationship grow get a little bit of glimpse of that. Though it's not lost to me that Max works a job as valet at the same place his dad works as the head waiter. Freaking Nepo baby taking all the service jobs. Psych, nah, but fun fact, Roxanne wasn't voiced by Kelly Martin in this episode. Instead, it was Icky Vicky herself, Grey DeLisle. It also had a moment that low-key might be one of Mickey's dirtiest shits he's ever pulled.
Here's a bicycle cartoon going out to our very own little Maxie Waxy. He's loved this one ever since he was a tiny tot in diapers. In fact, here's a shot of him as a tiny tot in diapers.
Hey, yo, look at my nigga's face. Mix, why you violating like that? This nigga Max probably set a bunch of mousetraps before locking up. I know I would. The episode gets across to having to deal with loved ones meddling, but this series also domesticated the other classic characters as well. It brought powerful characters down to mere audience member. You get to see Jafar chop it up with Hades, as well as Winnie the Pooh hanging with the 7 dwarfs. Only in this show would you see Mr. Toad getting arrested.
Let me go! Merrily on my way to nowhere in particular!
Sometimes you even get musical performances that audience both real and not real get to watch. It really felt like a community entertainment hub. It hits you with some recognizable imagery, but in a setting you wouldn't expect. Seeing your favorite characters kicking their feet up to watch some cartoons relates back to you since you're literally doing what they're doing.
Cosmic.
These legends that many of us grew up on are no longer seen as like gods or legends in this settings, including the gods themselves like Hercules and Hades. To see your favorite characters deal with bad service or servers dealing with bad customers changes something in your brain. Another big part that plays into the House of Mouse handling of domestication was its airtime. It welcomed you to relax from a hard day at school with Mickey and friends struggles to hold down a job. Hell, I can get adults that might get into the show since maybe it's aspirational to some. You being able to own a little business that brings the community together, it can speak to people more because it's grounding legends that once seemed too unrelatable to many. That's really the power of the House of Mouse that some people just kind of forgot about, and even Disney themselves. First time black people got to animate us on our own merit, so of course the crew went all out. Now, with all this talk of domestication, of course some of us liked that stuff when we were growing up, but then we got a little older and some of us decided to forget all about that. There ended up being some pushback against some domestic cartoons when it happens to more fantastical characters. Case in point, the Looney Tunes. Once they were made to live a sitcom life, there was backlash. Bugs and Daffy living as roommates was too much. The Tunes working mundane jobs was a complete betrayal to them. Witch Hazel becoming a sassy black woman who's a mom to Gossamer broke their brains.
What?
Okay, that one is a bit of a shock, but nothing you couldn't get used to. But after some people finally grew up, they realized the way the Looney Tunes were written made them more relatable than they've ever been. It even challenged the Tunes to see how they could handle a domestic situation, but in their own insane way, even if things went over the top. Let's not fake, we've all thought about doing this to someone, Craig. With the Tunes leading more simple lives, it pushed their comedy to new heights by putting it in an unusual territory. The first episode establishes the domestic feel with Daffy and Bugs' friendship being tested. Of course, we've known these guys to have disagreements in the past.
Shoot him now! Shoot him now!
But this episode puts it front and center just how different this dynamic between them is going to be. It's a more down-to-earth dynamic that feels indicative of messy friendships, some that we've even had to face ourselves. Bugs clearly has his life together, while Daffy is... Look, the point is he does try to be better. We get good Bugs and Daffy episodes that play up their question mark of a friendship. With Daffy being a deadbeat mooch, you get a lot of tension between these two. They've always been at odds with each other, especially with Bugs being the smarter of the two.
Well, I say he does have to shoot me now! So shoot me now!
But this show explores their friendship in a way you've never got before. Obviously, it's a toxic friendship that has definitely resulted in Bugs getting either hurt or his property destroyed. You can see the test of their friendship with each of Daffy's screw-ups. You gotta wonder what compels Bugs to let him stay. Over the course of the series, you see Daffy actually grow a bit. Well, as much as 2 seasons would allow. Damn you, Warner. Though, Bugs sometimes can be wildin'. Like in the Casa de Calma episode, after Daffy tossed him in the pool just to impress an actress he didn't know the name of, Bugs vows revenge. But we all know Bugs. It's on site when you play stupid games with him. Of course, he embarrasses and undermines Daffy every step of the way, making sure he doesn't look good in front of the starlet. It's all well-deserved with each time Daffy gets hurt. But the last scene of this episode, after it's been solidified that Daffy is basically done, once he's turned into a child, don't ask, this nigga Bugs does the straight up dirtiest shit ever.
Please take care of me.
Bugs ain't need to do that, but he did. That's worse than Kendrick's pettiness. They're at each other's throats, but you do know Bugs wouldn't abandon Daffy at the end of the day. Save for when he did. But at the same time, Daffy probably deserved it. Lola's introduction episode sets the stage for this new interpretation of her, as well as put Bugs in a status that we hadn't really seen, him in a relationship. Before, Lola was just kind of a athletic newbie for Space Jam, not to mention someone's bunny fantasy. Here she's a normal ditzy person. She has a personality that either we've experienced or have. Instead of Bugs falling head over heels for her, he actually gets put off by her ditziness. Of course, those that have seen the show know they end up together, but you see the progress of this relationship grow over the episode. Bugs clearly is aversive to her, but he slowly starts to fall for her throughout the show. Her next episode establishes that continuity is gonna matter here, with her coming back into Bugs' life, setting in place the domestic feel to the show, since now we know these characters can grow from here. This also extends to Tina, the newest Looney Tunes made for this iteration. Her and Daffy's relationship is one where you question why they're together. Tina is basically the most common sense of the Tunes. She's very laid back, which contrasts with Daffy's insanity, so they make for the cutest couple.
Why else would the kindest, most beautiful, generous, and intelligent woman in the world go out with someone like me?
Romance wasn't something Looney Tunes could handle that well, but this show proved there was a crew that could understand the assignment, especially when it came to putting these two, like Daffy and Bugs, in a relationship and actually exploring it, and having true conflict there. We get good interactions between the Tunes, usually focused on relatable scenarios. You get Speedy and Bugs and Porky trying to shoot a commercial for Speedy's restaurant, or Bugs and Daffy sneaking into a country club, or Bugs and Daffy going on vacation, or jail, or to war.
Shit!
Look, these two have been through a lot. How many friends do you have that will save you from a terrorist organization? Exactly. Even though the show got over the top, it wasn't too far from the domestic simple life. Again, barring the war angle. You get crazy sitcom hijinks with running a business or going on a date, as well as heartfelt moments like just wanting to impress your girlfriend's dad, or trying to prove that you are friends with somebody. The side Looney Tunes get more depth added to them with the changes as well. Granny actually gets a cool World War II backstory, and she kicks ass. Sadly, not all the Tunes got to glow up since the show ran short, but it was still nice to see your favorite classic cartoon characters go beyond the sticks of dynamite. We all like to see media that can show us some parts of ourselves. Whether in books, movies, TV shows, or video games, we gain some better understanding of the world when the stories we engage with comment on what's happening or what we've been through. Domesticated legendary characters have a deeper connection to people because they speak to who we are or where we want to go, as well as adding some reality to these otherwise unrealistic characters. Mickey Mouse trying to hold down a community gathering business with his friends is aspirational. Goofy trying to raise/connect with his son hits at home. Bugs Bunny having a shitty roommate, come on, y'all get that one. Sometimes it can be nice to see your favorite characters humbled by life because it can help you feel less out of control. Of course, we shouldn't try to see ourselves as talking animals though some try anyway. But we should see how these important characters can relate to our goals or our struggles, or some non-pretentious way of saying we love shows that are able to speak to us. But that's just a thought.